Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another exciting episode of News Live this week. And Ted's been a long time fan of the show and of Stacker News and everything that we do inside of Plub Lab. And he's also building his own product that's in stealth right now. But yeah, Ted, do you want to introduce yourself to the Stackers? Let everybody know who you are.
Ted there, usually a stealth listener. Usually I'm right over there on the other side of the screen. And Keyan, of course, is having a vacation right now, which is so nice, well-deserved. Poor guy hasn't had a vacation in 2 years. So I'm a big fan of taking some time off, being strategic. But yeah, big fan of the show, big fan of everything that people do here at Plub Lab and other Bitcoiners in other locations. Traveled all across. One of our topics today is Costa Rica. Been to there,
to
that Bitcoin community. So we'll see what comes up in the conversation.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, we usually do this thing where we talk about our weeks, but how was your week, Ted?
My week was good. Yeah, I just got spun up on a new server in Singapore. My first tester for my tool that I'm making, which is a tool that gets crappy content out of social media news feeds. He is going to be testing it out, but he happens to be in the Philippines. So in order to get the latency down, I had to spin up a server that was close to him.
Wow, did that take a long time?
It took a lot of going through AWS's interface and the bureaucracy of getting approval for the quota increase. I tried Google Cloud, but GPUs are in hot demand, so AWS was the way to go. But just got it working right before getting on this call.
Awesome. Dude, that's always amazing to hear that how fast you guys can really implement things and then break things and then get it back again.
It's a constant cycle.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, my week's been pretty busy. We're doing top builder, so we're down to the final 5, and we just had a long call over that. And then feels like every week in Austin is just getting more and more people visiting, more and more people building. So it's incredible. Just been a crazy busy week.
Good momentum.
Yeah. If you've never seen this crazy show before, it's called Stacker News Live. We cover the top 5 stories in Bitcoin that are on the front page of Stacker News, front page Bitcoin. And you can check us out on Fountain, where we'll cover the boost later. We won't get to that yet. But you can also check us out on YouTube. Our YouTube's been growing. We actually now have 330 subscribers.
Nice.
We were at like 300 for a long time, and just here recently, ever since Wumble started adding all these videos, now we have like all these videos, and it's kind of cool. So if you've never been, check it out. Stacker News Live on YouTube. And yeah, with that, we'll jump into the top 5 stories of the week. We're going backwards. We're going reverse. So the number 5 top story is recommended laptop for Bitcoin management. This is February 14th, picture room, 26 comments, 674 sats, Bitcoin territory. Ted, what is this?
Yeah, so Picture Room here is just trying to set up a new machine, presumably, a wiped model. If you scroll down a little bit, they describe what they're trying to accomplish. Spin up a Sparrow wallet, run a Start9 node, some other things open to recommendations. I personally haven't done a fresh laptop, but I've used a Arduino before and ran out of RAM. So I found 4 gigs. They say you only need 2, but personally I think what I currently use is a mini PC, 12 gigs of RAM. Don't need much of a processor. So the mini PCs are really good. But I do think the SSD is a nice thing to have. So people are just in the chat giving some recommendations.
What's the Lenovo one? Is this the one that everybody's saying, or what are they saying about it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just a cheap laptop, really. That's all it is. One of the useful things that did appear in the chat is a command. Let's see, it's about it's higher up. A command that you can use to wipe any sort of Intel backdoors someone mentioned. I don't know anything about that, but that's always my concern when I get a new device like this.
Interesting. Yeah, we have one comment from Expatriotic. The T4040P works if you're on a budget, but upgrade the RAM to 16 and 1 terabyte SSD. Physically remove the webcam, the mic. Flash Me Cleaner to kill Intel backdoors.
Yeah, exactly.
Run Linux. And you can get all that for not spending more than $300, it seems.
Yeah, I would go more than 4 gigs of RAM. I mean, I think 4 is pretty minimal. My Lightning node got very slowed down on 4 gigs of RAM. So
I feel like this is a computer I used to have like when I was in high school.
my dad definitely had this with the ball in the middle.
Yeah, I feel like I had one of these. But
Lenovo.
this feels new though. Mine was definitely thicker. Yeah. Wait, does it have like a PCI slot or something? What is that? What is it?
That looks like a hinge.
Oh, smart card reader.
Oh.
Interesting.
Number 8. Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's
Floppy drive.
It's the floppy drive. Let's jump into the number 4 story this week. It's 12 years of Bitcoin hater, Moneyness JP Koning. This is from Dilio Sapan. 10 comments, 1,259 sats, February 14th, econ territory. Ted, what's this?
Yeah, this is interesting. This comes up every now and then. You have an OG who's been in Bitcoin for a very long time, over a decade, and formed some opinions, watched it for a number of years, formed some opinions that basically Bitcoin's never going to happen for a series of reasons. And in the chat, really, everyone is just kind of observing this phenomena that happens of people who, for whatever reason, got all the information we did, yet came to a different conclusion. So there's various reasons people say that this might happen. The one that stood out to me, I noted it down, is that Bitcoin is an ego test, not an IQ test, which I think is very true because apparently this author, people say he knows what he's talking about, but maybe he doesn't have the ego to change his opinions over time or accept that maybe his conclusion 10 years ago is wrong, right? So it seems like he doubled down at a certain point. Last thing I'll say is that there is this narrative we'll talk about more later around using Bitcoin as a medium of exchange. And that's something that I think is a narrative that was very important in the early days where Bitcoin really did need more of that spending to prove out the value. But as time has gone on, well, the spending of Bitcoin is always happening. It's not like there's nobody spending Bitcoin. It might not be as much as we all would like it to occur, but it's always happening in the backdrop where someone like this would say, El Salvador failed, like this blanket statement, which I think a lot of people thought here was just not accurate.
Yeah, the top comment was from I Am Single. He said, when I come across old haters, I certainly find out that their hatred was clueless and most certainly originated from their ignorance. And then OP says, yeah, that's what's so weird here. JP isn't an idiot. He's not uninformed about the workings of Bitcoin. He just took a stance, ran for it for decades, never updated it. It's something else than ignorance. And then FreeTX says Bitcoin is not an IQ test. It's an ego test.
Yeah.
Interesting. Do you think that's true?
I do think it's true. I mean, I feel like what my defining moment of sort of becoming orange pilled is just accepting the pill into your hand, accepting, hey, this is a new thing. Why don't I approach it with an open mind and listen to people who say they know about it? And maybe it's a little bit of gullibility, but at least accepting that what they're saying might have validity. Now, someone who is older, more experienced, has seen these things before, they might already have preconceived notions. So in that case, it might be harder to do that. But I think just striving to approach things with an open mind, but still being rigorous and not taking someone's word for it, right? That mentality is critical to becoming a Bitcoiner, along with intelligence too, right? You have to understand these concepts that are very abstract. But I think ego has a lot to do with it.
Yeah. Somebody said resentment and denial.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if I would go that far, but it's certainly possible. I mean, I can't imagine saying, this thing is no good and then gets bigger and bigger and bigger every year.
Yeah.
Oof.
I don't really have a deep comment on this just because I've seen it happen multiple times through my Bitcoin journey where people even like him will just turn it around all of a sudden and then everybody will take them back.
Yep.
So I don't know. I guess wait and see on that. The next top story is Bitcoin Jungle needs buyer adoption, not merchant adoption. This is from Nout, 34 comments, 7,625 sats, Bitcoin territory. I haven't seen a Nout post in the top 5 in a really long time. It's been like a year. So that's cool to see. What's this about, Ted?
This is about Uvita, Bitcoin jungle. One of the most amazing places. So people don't probably know who I am, but I did a lot of traveling to all these different Bitcoin locations, just mostly to events and different places. And Uvita was one of the most special.
How do you say that again?
I think I'm saying it right. Uvita, Uvita. It's an expat community. A lot of Canadians down there, people from different places. I just thought it was one of the most special communities I've ever been. I've never experienced a vibe quite like that. Back in the old days, I was like a Bernie Sanders guy, hippie, no shoes, went to a lot of permaculture events. And in Uvita, I actually saw this interesting merger of almost like the permaculture, like they had a lot of yoga classes, art you can see here, and they somehow merged that with Bitcoin kind of anarcho-capitalist culture, and it's really beautiful, amazing place. And you have this app there called SynPay, and taxi cab, everyone will take SynPay app, and I can pay them in whatever currency. So you have three options: Bitcoin, US dollars, and Costa Rican dollars, which apparently doesn't have a very bad inflation rate. So they don't really care. They're like, as long as I'm getting paid through the app, it's all good. But the point that this makes is that the merchants are all on board with Bitcoin. No wonder, because they want money from tourists probably. But if you actually scroll up there, just a half a page, it says it's behind your video camera. So if you scroll down a little bit further, right there, it says only around 10% of people pay with Bitcoin, while 95% of the sellers accept. But frankly, I think that's amazing. 10% of people paying in Bitcoin is unheard of, I think, in any other community. So,
that makes a lot of sense. So this is in Costa Rica. Where else did you go?
No, I think I've been in that second picture. I think I was there.
You've been here? Okay.
Yeah, I think there was someone selling, I don't know if I can say this online, but they say they can sell almost anything they want down there. Very anarcho-capitalist.
Did you, and you were able to scan just like using a wallet? And it's an easy process? Yeah,
exactly like Venmo, Cash App, through the app. Super easy, linked to your phone number. You do need to have a local's phone number there. That's the only thing. And you have to operate it in that country.
Why do they call it the jungle? Is there other things around the jungle, or is it just all in a jungle?
It's a jungle.
Like an actual jungle that they live in?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a dense jungle, but maybe if you go further south, then it'll be an actual jungle.
But is there like a city around there, or is it just...
No, I don't. The main city, I would say, is about 2.5 hours away drive.
So how would you describe it? It's like...
Amazing. It is. They're like dirt roads, like jump in the Jeep, go down to the beach, start a bonfire, no police anywhere.
Interesting.
Good, just amazingly good vibes, good energy.
So it's basically like The Beach, the movie The Beach.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And so they had some interesting ideas in this article.
What was the ideas?
So they're like, how do we spur buyers, consumers using Bitcoin? So one of the things they had success with was an in-person Bitcoin kiosk, I guess, that an office they'd go up to, and they would explain, if you're a buyer or a seller, how to get it set up on Bitcoin, what is it, how does it work. I think that's great, having that physical presence. And then they talked about some other ideas here, like brochures, billboards, discounts. I think that's all great too. I guess the big thing that stood out to me from this conversation was how amazing it is that 10% of people are spending Bitcoin. I mean, that's an amazing accomplishment, and it always can be higher. And I love the in-person, physical office concept. I think that's huge.
To this day, I think I've only seen 800 people use Bitcoin for the food trailers that we had for that block party in 21. That was the only time I've ever seen that many people actually use Bitcoin all at once. That was through the Oshi app. But that was like 3-4 years ago. And then after that one evening, I think most of the people stopped accepting Bitcoin. Yeah. But I think you're right. It is pretty incredible to have like at least 10% of that in Bitcoin. Yeah, I mean, my experience was getting the cab, pay for. I think I paid for my hostel with Bitcoin. Everything is Bitcoin, and it's not
the way people think about it down there is they're just getting paid through the app. They don't care what currency it is. Those are the three options. They're probably going to be converting a lot of that just to Costa Rican dollars, I'd imagine. But they think of it like the app.
Like peer-to-peer.
They don't think of, oh, it's Bitcoin currency or U.S. currency. It's just, how am I getting paid? I'm getting paid through the app? Okay, we're good. Otherwise, it's cash pretty much.
Yeah, the top comment was from Team of Pleb. Says, what has stunned me sometimes is that some Bitcoiners go to the orange pill, local businesses, and never go there themselves to spend sats. Then after 6 months during travels, you find the business on BTC map, but the place has stopped accepting Bitcoin because nobody wanted to pay with it.
It's true.
Yeah, it's true. That's why I think it works more for peer-to-peer people. Like here in Austin, like I think most of the pedicabs accept Bitcoin, and then most people you run into probably have a Bitcoin wallet.
Do you think so?
I think so. I think I would be shocked if most people didn't have a Bitcoin wallet.
I don't know if I believe that. I mean, most people?
Because most people have Cash App.
Most people, a lot of people have Cash App, but I bet you it's not even most people have Cash App. I mean, I was talking to someone the other day who didn't have Cash App.
Doesn't PayPal and Venmo have Bitcoin now too?
They do, but you have to KYC, you have to enable it. So it's
so you think maybe they just haven't done that?
Yeah, I doubt it. I mean,
I bet you could go outside to like a person and say like, hey, I want to give you Bitcoin. And then do you think they would say yes?
I think they would say yes, but I don't think they would know how to accept it. I think most people, we're still pretty early. It's crazy to think about that we're still early after all this time, but yeah, we are. People don't have this stuff. Maybe a lot of people have Bitcoin, in PayPal or whatever, but have they set up a Bitcoin wallet?
No.
Or did their friends send them Bitcoin?
That's why I think they probably could receive Bitcoin, maybe like through these apps they already use. They just don't know it's buried in there, maybe.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
I agree with that.
We got Saunter with another comment. He says, we have too high supply of merchants compared to the number of Bitcoiners that are willing to spend Bitcoin. That applies to almost all Bitcoin circular economies. What we need long-term to do is to kill the hodl, don't spend meme. There are Bitcoiners living in those communities and not spending Bitcoin at all. What do you think about that?
This is obviously a opinion that a lot of people have, right? And I just don't think that it's that Bitcoin needs to be spent all the time. I mean, I just don't think that is an intrinsic. Houses aren't spent all the time, right? You buy a house and now it's a store of value and you can live in it. That's an added bonus. But there's tons of shacks that are broken down.
Yeah.
So people are clearly parking value. They're using the real estate concept to store value. Like storing value is a use case. So this sentiment was discussed quite a bit. And, the counter argument is that you can't even have a store of value if there's not some way to transact it. The sort of distinction that I would make in this discussion is, does something need to be transacted or does it need to be transactable, right? And so I actually think that a store of value, like transactability, is important for a store of value. But the fact that it is being transacted is more important for medium of exchange because that means it's widely accepted. Right. So obviously you want both, but we all know Bitcoin has scaling limitations, right? So does Lightning for now. So because of that, I think those high value transactions are probably the ones that are more likely to be used with Bitcoin. And that's basically adhering more to that pure store of value use case. So it's a legitimate sentiment. I don't personally agree with it. I think that store value is in and of itself a form of value. And this goes back to Nick Szabo's writings, Origins of Money. Plenty of methods have been used over time to store value, like a badge, for example, or a totem pole, or other ways that someone's indicated that I've contributed value to the tribe, but it's not necessarily a easily transacted type of thing, or even an often transacted thing.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where, I don't know, I feel like, for me, at least in my short time here, I feel like I've come to the realization, whether it's right or wrong, I just believe at this point that you need to just create more companies, more projects, more use cases to spend that Bitcoin, better use cases. And then I think at some point, however long that takes, I think then it'll flip the switch. I do think in the future, though, I think everybody will accept Bitcoin, whether they don't now. I think that's an obvious thing because that'll just be a better form of money that they want. Whether they'll get it, that's a whole nother thing. So maybe we're seeing that already. Maybe this is how it'll always be. Maybe it'll only be like 10% of people. Yeah.
I hope not. I mean, if it's only 10% of people, it's definitely possible, right? That it could be just a subset of society are the Bitcoiners. I mean, it already is like that, right?
Right.
But,
Yeah.
you know, a subset of society. I mean, think about the unbanked of the world, right? So it's already a subset of society, has internet, has a banking system, has a democracy, right? So wouldn't be a new thing for there to be a human rights kind of equalizing system, but not all people get it. And I think that seems like the most plausible situation of Bitcoin. We do need more, though. We always need more. So this is fighting the good fight, right? Pushing, fighting adoption.
See, this lady's accepting Bitcoin right there.
Yeah, a basket of Bitcoin right there.
For some carrots and pineapple.
I'd buy a pineapple with a Bitcoin.
How much do you think that costs in sats?
10,000.
10,000 sats for that one pineapple? That's too much. Gosh, I wouldn't pay 10,000 sats for that pineapple.
1,000.
Oh, I'll give you 500 sats at best.
750.
No.
Oh.
See, this is why people don't. They put prices on it, and they're trying to barter. Bitcoiners are trying to barter with them, and they're like, no. But yeah, that was a good one. Are you going to go back to Bitcoin Jungle? Do you think you would go back? Yeah.
I never thought I would. I was like, why am I going to Costa Rica? My friend convinced me to do it. Simon from London. And he was like, you got to come down here. So I came down, and oh my God, definitely would visit again. Amazing place.
There you go. You heard it here first. The next top story, the number 4 top story, are Bitcoins meant for spending or savings? This is from Expatriotic, 57 comments, 810 stats. Bitcoin beginners territory, February 20th. Ted, what's this?
This is the same conversation, right?
It pretty much is. Stackers love talking about the same things every week.
Well, this is a current theme, right? Going back years and years and years. Like, does money need to be spendable? Like, is money getting its value from being a transactable medium, or is it getting it from store value, or all of the above, or what I would describe as they're separate places of value, right? Like, store value is its own encapsulated value. That's why, you can have something like a house, right? Or a treasury bond that's storing value. Medium of exchange can be value in and of itself. It doesn't need the store value component. That's why fiat currency is used, right? It has a real use case. Obviously, if you can have both together, that's even more value. So I view them as distinct, different entities, and I think Bitcoin is a great store of value and a pretty good medium exchange. It's great in certain ways in terms of speed, final settlement, all of that. There are other ways that it is, from a user standpoint, a credit card is quite nice because then you can roll back the money you spent 30 days later. That's not good for the recipient, but that's good for the spender. So just depends on your perspective on its value there. But I disagree with this, but I think it's totally valid argument here, which is, well, we need to have people spending Bitcoin for it to have any store of value to begin with. Right.
Yeah, they even bring up Pizza Day when Laszlo spent 10,000 Bitcoins for 2 Papa John pizzas, which was crazy if you think about it now. That's another one that kind of gets you thinking in the mindset of like, oh no, I don't want to be that guy. Yeah.
Well, at the time, this goes back to that 12 years post from earlier, where they said, back in the early days when it had no value or had limited value, spending Bitcoin was a big deal because you're proving the use case, you're proving that transactability, in which case it's very important to do these demonstrations. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I get a huge hit of joy every time I spend some Bitcoin. It's kind of wearing off, to be honest, but in the early days, oh my God, it's especially, buying a cup of coffee, or there's some German or Amsterdam guys who have a keg, automated keg with an LN URL set up. You pay the LN URL.
That was me at TabCon.
Drank so many of those little beers.
Just getting it. Yeah, I kept going back. It was amazing. Yeah, those are the Papa John pizzas right there.
Famous pizzas.
Looks like it was buffalo chicken, maybe.
Worth it?
I don't think it was worth it. But yeah, it's kind of I kind of see like 10,000 Bitcoins, I guess back then is the equivalent of 10,000 sats right now. I think we're kind of going through that same thing right now, I would say. We're over here slinging 10,000 sats, 50,000 sats to each other.
For a freaking pineapple.
Yeah, and people are going to come, like 10 years from now, people are going to be like, what were you guys thinking?
Yeah.
We're going to be like, we weren't.
I think about Bitcoin I've gifted people like years ago, and write the private key in a book, give them the book. Wow. And like, I hope that book
did they lose it?
Someone's going to go to the library or Goodwill or someplace and get very lucky.
Oh, wow. There you go. You heard it here first. Cool. And then what's the other stuff they're talking about here about the BISC and RoboSats? Are they saying?
I didn't read this section here.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go.
Oh, yep. I see. They're talking about Bit Refill.
We got the top comment was from Morningstar. He said, or she said, right now Bitcoin is in the phase of gaining acceptance and it can long stay till it becomes universal money for spending. People are not spending it right now because there's a possibility of short-term rise in its price point. Don't get me wrong for fiat, but until or unless you have acceptance for fiat, people aren't going to use it for buying goods. Somehow this narrative might be changed in the coming times. I guess it's a good point there. People don't like spending Bitcoin when price is supposed to appreciate by like 70% or whatever. Yeah,
although, I mean, you can make the counterpoint, which is if you are living on a Bitcoin standard and you don't really have any dollars, then you got to pay the bills one way or the other, right? So instead of taking Bitcoin, converting to dollars, and then paying your bills via dollars, that sacrifices some amount of time of holding that Bitcoin because of all those steps it has to go through. You'd much prefer to just spend with Bitcoin directly. You're still taking the same hit, but you get more exposure to the Bitcoin originally. So even in a price appreciating standpoint, you still would want to spend your Bitcoin.
Okay, we're going to jump into the number one story that's coming up here. It's going to be a spicy topic. It's called Value for Value is a Scam. Ooh. This is from AV BPod, Bitcoin Territory, February 15th, 28 comments, 4,776 sats. Ted, what's going on here?
Well, you can click into the article there on the top.
Yeah.
So this was a fascinating article. I'll tell you, I don't always read every post on the week, but since I'm up here, I read them all, and I was just amazed I felt like my mind was blown multiple times reading all these articles. This was one of those cases. Such an interesting topic because so many people in Bitcoin companies or organizations, even if they're not trying to turn a profit, are kind of operating this value for value model, running podcasts, streaming sats, that sort of thing. And the argument of the author here is that it's actually value for value can be detrimental. And I had a quote there that you can scroll down to, but I'll read it out here, which is...
Was it a comment?
No, it's a quote in the original article,
okay,
but I think it sets up the comments pretty well. In the world of value for value, the system is rigged from the get-go because of dodgy fundamentals based on goodwill. So right there, he's very opinionated, and he follows up later and says, he builds on that assumption and says, value for value has a negative influence on Bitcoin adoption. Because so many people will start under this model, hoping to make a living or at least break even on their hobby project, they'll soon turn sour. And I have seen this in a few cases.
Yeah, explain that to me, yeah.
Yeah, so basically, first of all, he's saying value for value is like a flawed system, right? So that can be debated, right? And then secondly, he says if it is a flawed system, well then people who are come into Bitcoin from a value for value perspective, and they're thinking that they're going to, make it big in Bitcoin because they're adhering to value for value. Well, if value for value doesn't actually work in all cases, or maybe it doesn't work in most cases in terms of giving you a good ROI in your efforts, well, then in that case, those people might wrongly attribute Bitcoin to their failure as opposed to the value for value principles. And so this sparked some great conversation. And frankly, I agree with this article. I mean, I wouldn't go so far to call it a scam, right? But I do think that it is, I mean, first of all, value for value is barter, right? That's what it basically is, right? I mean, you're giving money, but it's still kind of a more simple form of economic transaction. And I think it works great in small groups of people. Maybe there's, I contribute to certain newsletters. There's a YouTuber that I support. It's on a niche topic that I don't think is going to really succeed in the market. So I'm subscribing, I'm donating to this person. But maybe that's a bad thing, right? Because maybe this person, if they weren't getting my donation, then they would learn kind of the hard way in the competitive market, and they would more quickly pivot to something that was profitable. So I think there's actually kind of a moral argument embedded in this debate, which is really interesting. And I kind of see from both perspectives. I fall more on the pure hard-nosed capitalist perspective, but at the same time, we all do value for value every day. And I find that Bitcoiners are some of the most generous people I've ever interacted with. Right. So I try to square that off. I agree with the article, yet in practice, I see that value for value is constantly happening.
Yeah, I'm gonna take this from a totally different angle that I don't even think, and this is kind of just my own belief. I think Bitcoiners in general just operate in this new world that doesn't quite exist yet, where it doesn't actually come down to like, the normal everyday fiat things that you would need. It actually comes down to like trust, proof of work, and whether people want to do business with you. And so, and also, do they like you or not, right?
Right, yeah.
Because there's this saying in Bitcoin, like we can just take our Bitcoin and go home, or we can, like people, that's why you see so many forked projects in the space or forked groups or forked whatever communities, whatever it is, because Bitcoiners will inherently do that all the time. They will just take their Bitcoin and go do their own thing. And that you'll see that all the time in Bitcoiners because of this what Bitcoin does for us. And I think the world will evolve that way too. So I think in a lot of ways, what he's actually talking about here isn't so much the value for value part, because I think that's already a separate thing. I think it's more about this more evolved, I don't want to say species, but this more evolved human that's looking at it from a different perspective. As let's say you come in, Ted, you're doing this show. I don't know if Keyan's paying you or not. He's probably not paying you.
No.
Is that value for value? Like, what's your value from doing this? To me, I would say you want to do it because you're a fan of the show and you want to talk about Stacker News stuff, but you could go and do that somewhere else too as well. So it's kind of like one of those things where I'm saying, like, I think because you know Keyan, because you know me, because there's some level of trust there, and because you'll have a good time, you want to provide value to the stackers that are watching and listening right now. Mm-hmm. So you're not looking for value back.
Yes, exactly.
But you only will do that because have known me, have known Keyan, have known our proof of work, know who we are. Like there's all these other things that have come before, and and we're friends. So that's where I think that's where that value for value system doesn't account for, I guess. Am I making sense? I'm probably
You're making perfect sense, but is that value for value, right? Because if that's value for, like, I'm just, down to do this, I'm down to help out. And, I guess you could say that I'm sort of subconsciously expecting something back from the ether in the future.
The future. Okay, so maybe you launch TED News Live, and then you're like, Kark, will you come on, or Keyan, will you come on and host this with me at some point? Let's say hypothetically.
Sure, yeah. I mean, obviously that's not an explicit expectation, but you could argue that's sort of...
So would that be then the circle of value for value? I see this is another thing where I'm like, I almost feel like it's just being friends, but maybe in Bitcoin we're supposed to be adversarial to each other because it is like a grab Bitcoin at all costs kind of mentality. But I don't know.
You'd think we should be, but we're too friendly. I mean, everyone's so generous. It's amazing. It doesn't make sense, but I think there's a really good point. If you flip over to the comments here, Aardvark, you scroll maybe halfway down, Aardvark made a really good point. Maybe it was in that thread up there.
Okay, what did he say?
He was replying, scroll just like 2 comments down. So Keyan was saying, trying to describe kind of the perspective of the article, and Aardvark said, okay, I think I get it. Streamer is, hey guys, if you like it, please donate. That's kind of what I feel like I'm doing. I'm coming around the show, I'm just helping out, no expectation, other than maybe a subconscious expectation. And then value for values, I made value, you owe me, right?
Oh, but but who perceives that value?
That's a good question. I mean, I don't think it's value. If someone puts a lot of work, I don't believe in labor theory of value.
I got this thing. Okay, so in the early days of Plub Lab, there was this thing where people would say, it was notorious, like, oh, you're going to do something for free. It's value for value, whatever, right? Whether it's a workshop or something. And it's like, what do they get out of it? At the time, it was value for value was a thing. I didn't know anything. Mm-hmm. Now I recognize that was slave labor.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think now I recognize it as like, okay, I only want to do it if they want to do it as well, too. Mm-hmm. Like, if there is some value they'll get out of promoting themselves on Plub Labs, workshops, or whatever. And so it comes from that other mindset of like, streamer, hey guys, if you'd like to please donate, then cool. If not, then that's okay too. But there are people in the space though that will get people to do things for free, and they're notorious for that, and they don't pay. So those people do exist, and they will take advantage of what Aardvark says right there, where's value for value. Hey, I made value. Cool. Well, you get to hang out with me, and that's your value. Like that does exist in the space, and that is a constant thing that you see about certain Bitcoiners and you hear about. But I think for me personally, just seeing it like firsthand and actually being a person on both sides of that, I've recognized that. And so now I'm like at a point now where like, I don't want you to do something for me for free unless I pay you. Yep. Or if you do, just like we both know, hey, you're doing this because you want to help, not because I'm like expecting you to help.
Yeah,
if that makes any sense.
Exactly. I'm not going to be mad at you or Keyan later if I can't get you on my podcast, right, in the future, whatever.
He doesn't have a podcast
won't sub in
yet.
when I'm taking vacation. But yeah, that's I just don't.
It's like, a weird thing.
It is a weird thing
because you could even say on Stacker News, is this value for value on Stacker News? Like, did they get into that conversation here?
They do.
Where did they say that at?
I think you actually were right there.
Oh, yeah. So Keyan says something, huh?
Yeah, he says he's not comfortable of calling it that label or that meme, right? And, my feeling is that if you are going in, like let's say you're going into Nostr and you're saying, I'm going to make a career of Nostr and I'm going to get enough zaps to pay myself, you're kind of going into it with a value for value mentality. Maybe it's not explicitly stated, but the zap feature in and of itself is not forcing the value for value like system. It is just a feature, right? It's a great feature. You can tip people. I think tipping people, especially in the content world, for politics or things that they might not normally be getting paid from, that's great. I'm all for it. I think the problem is that sort of expectation when you're like, okay, I'm going to be able to now make a positive ROI just running my territory and getting zaps. That's, some people can pull it off, but it's difficult, right? I think that's the main distinction.
For me, I've told this to Keyan many times, like the territory that Plub Lab pays for is totally donation.
There you go.
It's like, I want to see you continue doing this and I want to support it. So that's why I'm paying for a territory. And it's kind of the same thing, I would think, the way he thinks about, all of you guys. And it's like, no, I want to see Ted become successful. So I want to help Ted get to where he's going to go. Same thing with everybody else in the lab. And I think that's where nothing's expected of you, but, at the same time, like if you are that person, then help them. If you don't want to, then don't help them. And we have people like that too in the lab as well too. So it's one of those things where it's like, I wouldn't call it value for value. I would just call it more of like a community. And there's some people you get along with and you help them. There's some people you don't get along with and you help them. And there's some people that you don't get along with and then you don't help them. Mm-hmm. So it really is just it's a weird time, man. The world's changing.
I mean, think about the group of Bitcoiners, all the people who are around today. Imagine us in like 10, 20, 30 years. Someone's going to have a planet and try to like, hey, look, you have all the uranium deposits. I need to trade you, this half of the moon for the uranium deposits. It's going to be this crazy, this crazy future world. And that's something that I think the value for value kind of encapsulates, but the difference is what you're describing. It's just a community. It's not an expectation. I feel like the value for value meme.
That's what always drove me nuts was like, Austin in its early days, there was a lot of like, oh, you got to do this, you got to do this. And it was just kind of like you're just being a dictator. And I think at least, since I've been like doing Club Lab stuff, I've kind of not done that anymore. Or if I was a part of that, I don't do that anymore. It's like, no, if you want to help out, cool. If not, then I'm going to do it anyway. And but it's not like you owe me something or you owe Club Lab something. It's not like that.
Yeah, it could maybe be used.
But you could take advantage of people that do that, though. Like, because there are new people always coming into the space every 4 years.
Yep.
And so they want you to do things. And so there's a group of people that expect you to do those things for free. And it's kind of dumb. It doesn't make any sense. And once I realized what it was, I fixed it. And it was just kind of one of those things. I've just kind of done it that way.
Yeah, you can have a one-off arrangement with someone. Hey, I don't know how, but I'll get this back to you later. Mm-hmm. That's fine. One-off, value for value. But the second you appeal to value for value as this thing.
Yeah, like you owe them, I don't want to say who it is, but there was a guy notorious for that in the ecosystem where he'd go around saying this, and then like everybody behind the scenes were like, this guy's driving me nuts because he expects everybody to work for him for free, like we're his slaves. And he was notorious for doing that to people. I won't say who it is, but it got around, and so people didn't want to do anything for him because first he wouldn't help them get to where they wanted to go, and second, like he was just using them as slaves. So it's different when you provide some sort of value back, but it's also complicated because if they don't get that perceived value back, then they feel shafted, I guess.
This is why we invented money in the first place. This is the whole point of money, right? Yeah. We didn't have money.
Yeah. Here recently, there was a guy that we had in the lab, and I literally told him, he was here for like a month, and I told him, I was like, well, just so you know, like you want to do this, like you want to do this for free, you want to help out, and you want to learn, and in turn, I will also help you out with some other things. And I go, but after a month, I'm going to pay you irregardless, or you're going to pay me, and that's how it's going to be. And that's how I handle it these days now, where it's like, I probably won't even like working with you after a month, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. And then after that, something's going to change. And that's how I kind of handle it, just to avoid what you're talking about, that disdain or that feeling that you get when you feel like you're getting taken advantage of. Mm-hmm. Right. Humans are a weird species.
We sure are.
And then Justin Shocknet had a really spicy comment. So I'll read that because why not?
Good comment.
True, he says. All it took was one VC linked article about it, and all the virtue signaling lemmings decided it was the ultimate use case for Lightning. How much developer and creator effort was wasted focusing on this as a result? We literally have the most powerful settlement system on Earth in Lightning, and somehow the retards on Nostr determined it was best for tipping. Perhaps it was simply just cope, ? After all, now they could justify signing notes to themselves, calling it innovation, and then collect NGO money for eCash development, ? A neobanker psyop to illustrate Lightning isn't really meant to deal such small amounts, ? Our experiments with Lightning.video showed paywalls to be much more effective than the value for value features. Ultimately, content is a digital product. No matter how you decide to price it, maybe if as many people read Nick Szabo as they did Gigi, they'd have understood why it was at best a backseat use case. Dang.
This was amazing. I saw this comment. I was like, oh my God. I linked to the article. So this is his thing on micropayments. And if you, I think I read this a long time ago. You brought this up earlier,
didn't you?
Yeah, a long time ago. But if you scroll down to the bottom, the conclusion kind of summarizes it. Second to last sentence, I think it was, says, yeah, right there. It basically says, you can scroll up. Let's see here.
So, wait, I'm sorry, up here.
Yeah, right there. So last paragraph. We have seen how customer mental transaction costs can derive from at least 3 sources. So I'm going to buy this drink, and it's the price of the drink, but it's also the mental decision making. What's the other ones? Uncertain cash flows. Will I get an ROI on this drink? And, how do I know that this drink is actually full or it's not half full? So all those decision making, what Sabo's arguing is that that's very burdensome. And in those microtransactions, which people are saying, he's arguing basically against microtransactions here, that they're not accounting for the mental burden, which can be more substantial than the financial burden.
So he's saying that humans are unable to pay in microtransactions because it's so overbearing.
Yeah, I mean,
with decisions.
I don't think he's saying necessarily that it can't happen. It's just more that
there's this mental hurdle that they have to get across.
It's an extra cost, right? So you could see a situation where, like, for example, the pump is when you're filling up your tank of gas. That's basically a microtransaction. Turn it on, streaming cost, right? I can turn it off at any time. But that's kind of one decision, and then I turn it on in full control. I can stop it at any time. It doesn't feel like a big mental burden. He's more arguing for the, you turn on the lights, that's a cost. You plug in your computer, that's a cost. All these little streaming costs add up to lots of different decisions.
Oh,
that's
interesting. So, and that's why we pay a lump sum every month for these different costs.
Yeah, so he actually says that somewhere. He says, maybe it's earlier in the paragraph, he says, you see these web streaming services that are doing a flat rate up front.
Yeah. It's like we've already solved a lot of this tech dribble, I guess. Mm-hmm. It's already been solved for a decade or more. Yeah. That's fascinating.
Sabo's work is amazing. And
that's such an alternative take than what we saw here. That's what I'm saying, Justin, man. Every once in a while, he's always going to come in hard. You got to expect it. That's just who Justin is. If you've never met Justin from ShockNet, he's just like that.
I don't think I've met him.
Yeah, he's just one of those guys. So you just got to take that for what it's worth.
He said something else here that was really.
He'll always give you an alternative take on it, and I think the Nick Szabo one is actually a very interesting take on it because he's right. Like a lot of these problems have been solved already. Mm-hmm. And maybe it is just a passing fad. Yeah.
Is the reason we don't do micropayments because of the payment processing cost, or is it because of the mental burden and people prefer a smaller number? The other point he made here, which was really interesting, just kind of as an offhand point, was all the retards on NOS are using it for tipping, right? Okay. I'm not saying tipping is like not a valid use case, but I do think people are finding these bigger financial use cases for Bitcoin and Lightning. So for example, somehow, I don't understand any of it, but intertwining Bitcoin with a mortgage or using it as like a debt instrument like Michael Saylor, or God knows what else, transferring, insurance or other things like that. Yeah. I think there's probably a lot of room for innovation in that domain, but because it's traditional finance, a lot of Bitcoiners maybe just are like me and not even aware of it, right?
Right. I can see why this made the number one story this week, because it leaves a lot of question marks, and then for some it answers, or they can double down on. I don't know where I land on it, to be honest. I've seen both sides of it. I've also been a person that gives a lot of value in my own different ways, and so I've been on both sides, so I can understand the scam around it. But I think it's an interesting thing, because there's like a digital world, there's the online world, and then real world, and then there's Szabo's world,
and then value for value world, way over there.
Yeah, cool, good stuff. We're gonna jump into Ted's top stories this week. The first one is this one. Ted, what's this?
Yeah, 2 quick ones, and I actually didn't get to watch this video, but I did a transcript, dump it into Grok, got an overview, and I was like, okay, this is very interesting, something I want to read later. I try to not listen to a ton of economic stuff because it can sometimes be a black hole of time, but there are some interesting points that they made, and they're kind of taking like a contrarian Bitcoiner take. Some of the things they were saying is that Bitcoin is likely not to be a winner-take-all market, monetary in terms of currencies. It might be a winner-take-most market. So just like today, the US dollar, global world reserve currency, but there's plenty of other currencies in the world. You could say they're all kind of linked to the dollar in some way, but their argument is that Bitcoin may take most and become that world reserve asset, but it won't necessarily be the only currency that other people are using. There still might be fiat currencies. I thought that was very interesting. Another one was that they believe fractional reserve lending will continue to exist, which I do agree with as well. But it just might warp how debt is issued. However, they make the point, and I need to go watch this video, but they make the point that some of the things like interest rates or terms in debt may not be purely due to the money, or may not be due to the money to the degree that a Bitcoiner might expect, but it actually might be due to like the business climate or other risks that the bank is aware of. And so those factors will still exist in the future. So even in a hyper-Bitcoinized world, debt may not be radically changed from how it is today. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I want to check it out too, because I don't necessarily, if I would wholeheartedly agree with any of it, but I do think it's fascinating to have at least another point of view of how they see it. How do you think it's going to play out? Do you think there will be, I think you just said right now there'll be fractional reserve. Do you think there's anything else?
Well, that's what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely.
How do you think it plays out?
Well, if you look back in time, thousands of years, there is sort of an interest rate on debt that seems to be fairly static. And I think it's like 20% is the interest rate. And only recently has that number come way down. So, I think you could probably argue that, well, at least my thinking was that the interest rate will go back to 20% because that's what it's been historically over a long stretch of time. And yeah, I guess they're offering a different opinion, which is the interest rate may not change so much in a Bitcoinized world, or may change to some degree, but the majority of the interest rate is being derived from the business environment. That's the very short grok overview that I got, but it did spark some thinking. I like this Bitcoin contrarian takes, and I do think that over time we have seen a lot of this stuff not change as radically as we might expect.
Yeah, totally. I think the SBI is what's spurring a lot of this conversation, which is good. Gets more people interested for all hopes of reasons. Mm-hmm. And hopefully that's the first touch or second touch point they have to get into Bitcoin. But ideally, Bitcoin standard. But we'll see. Yep. What is a hottie toddy? I don't know what a hottie toddy is.
Hottie toddy? Where are you seeing that?
I saw that on a shirt.
Oh, hottie toddy.
Is he Todd and then he's just saying he's hot? Is that what he's saying?
I have no idea. I wonder if that's a team.
What's a hottie toddy? What's a hottie toddy?
Oh, what's a hot toddy?
Hottie toddy.
I know what a hot toddy is.
See his shirt?
His shirt.
Oh, well, a hot toddy is, let's see, it's whiskey.
Oh, can you talk to the mic?
Whiskey.
Can you talk to the mic?
It's like whiskey, honey, and I forget the third ingredient, but it's like hot tea.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like a remedy for when you're sick.
Mm.
Yeah.
Nice. So maybe he's on a hottie toddy right now. That would make sense. Cool. All right, let's jump into your next one. Ted, you had this one here. Should true AI have rights?
Yeah, should true idea. Who even wrote
Topher's
this?
Probably like,
should true AI have rights?
Topher, should true AI have
the
rights?
right to a bullet to the back of
There we go.
Yeah,
That's my. I like this. No, there's no, and people were arguing for this in the chat. They're like, yeah, it's sentient, right? No way. Don't give these guys rights. Look, they're going to get their rights whether we give it to them or not. I would rather.
Yeah, 100% they are.
I'd rather we pump the brakes on that one personally.
We go the alternative timeline here. It's going to happen whether you want to or not. Yeah. What's this open worm thing?
So if you click explore the worm, it literally is just a 3D worm that renders on your page. But this sparked an idea. Looking at this 3D worm sparked an idea.
Is this supposed to be their rights or something? What is this?
This is, I guess, a sentient being. It's neurons connected. But this is, okay, so.
Wait, is this really that?
Yeah, it's an open source AI. This might be the thing that takes us all down, this worm.
Wait, you're kidding though, right?
Openworm.org or whatever.
Look, I just turned him. Look, he's evolving.
I'm not
already.
kidding at all.
He's literally.
Oh,
evolving.
what did you do?
He's evolving. Oh my gosh!
Oh,
One evolution away from turning into a brain
man.
slug.
We gotta get, let's
Oh,
better
wait,
get out of
and
here.
now he's dead. There you
Oh,
go.
nice, good work. Yeah, see, that's what we need to do. That's the rights that all the AIs get. Although
awesome.
this sparked an idea in my head, which is so think about like a chain of prompt reasoning or whatever you call it when you do like an O1 Pro kind of prompt. So especially with deep search or any sort of searching functionality, it is prompting itself, then it's going and gathering up some stuff, bringing it back, prompting itself again. If you could set no end date on it and combine that with kind of the operator
interesting.
system where it can click around to do things, then it could click over, get to a new server, give it access to a Bitcoin wallet, go over to that new
It's
wallet.
kind of what Christopher's talking about building for open agents.
Just a little autonomous agent to go out and buy your
Yeah,
groceries.
you entered the GitHub repository, then it just starts fixing things.
Yeah.
That's
But
crazy.
can it maintain its own loop?
I don't know.
Because it's like, what is its prime directives? It's got to be self-preservation has to be in there.
Yeah.
I guess we go with like Asimov's law, robotics. I think the third one is self-preservation.
You said Asimov's law?
Yeah.
Let me pull it up and Jamie.
There's three.
Asimov,
How do you spell that?
ASIMOV. Oh, I'm not sure if that's right.
Law of what? Robotics?
Yeah, it would need to be able to evolve, which is actually a
Which it
very
is,
difficult
kind of.
thing for an AI to do.
Well, to some degree it is, right? The LLM is sort of soft evolving, but it's not evolving the hard model underneath.
Right.
So
Yeah, we're very far from AI. I would say calling it sentient.
but it could, so it does need the
there it
first
goes.
mover to get it in motion. But then if it was paying for its own existence on its AWS server, then it should be able,
Training itself.
Well, this is just like iRobot, dude. Did you guys not see iRobot? This is the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's based off the book.
Okay. There you go. So it looks like the three laws: a robot may not injure a human being, or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. A robot must obey orders given by human beings, except where such orders would conflict with the first law. Oh, okay. A robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second law.
So you can order a robot to destroy itself.
But you can't order a robot to destroy others.
Right.
Yeah.
But then for it to have self-preservation, like it would have to, that the third law would have to be the first law.
So to go back here, should true AI have rights? It sounds like it does,
According to Isaac Asimov.
but it hasn't been implemented yet, right? So
Yeah, well, if it's sentient, I mean, there's plenty of sentient things. I would say a whale is sentient, a dolphin's sentient. They're not giving them rights. I mean, think about it. If dolphins had rights, think about the crap they'd be doing. They jump out, pull you down, do all sorts of things to you down
Dolphins
there.
are rapists.
You don't want
Wait,
that.
what?
They do terrible. Yeah, they're horny, freaky devils.
Yeah, you do not want to
how smart
find yourself in a swarm
are
of dolphins.
dolphins?
They're terrible.
Dolphins
We all
are
agree.
ter- Have you guys gotten raped by dolphins or something? What are we talking
You
about
haven't?
here? No.
You ever been swimming?
No. Not with dolphins.
Yeah, well, AI is like the same thing, right? Like it's
I don't want to type in that word.
it's some
but
intelligence that's not
dolphins,
human.
Sexual
Never
assaulting.
ever wandered into a marina in the wrong part of town?
Wrong side of
assaulting
the pool.
men, I guess. You guys are the ones getting assaulted. Oh wait, there's somebody
He's actually
talking
got
about-
something.
Yeah. Anyways, that's enough of that. Okay, so it sounds like you guys are yay or nay.
Well, some of these guys actually wanted to give him rights. I don't know what kind of maniac thought that. A bunch of these guys wanted to give
Probably
him.
Fabs. Fabs says, I think that a true artificial intelligence won't bother about whether or not we simpletons share our rights with it or not. It'll be way ahead of us in pretty much everything anyway. Why would it bother about archaic legal frameworks?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, at the bottom though, there's a really good
it's a
point.
Fabs take.
Go all the way to the bottom.
Discipline said something here. It's
yeah.
real fake said something.
Yeah. So I think we've already established that corporate personhood is a thing. So you could have an AI that's wrapped in a legal entity, has access to the bank account, and can execute different payments and do things. At that point, is that AI a person? By the law, it says it is.
No.
Well, the legal entity.
It's like the DAO thing, right? It's like a whole. Is that what you're?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it is. I mean, yeah,
Well, it's
probably
just
on
an owl.
paper.
There's no D, but it's an owl.
DAO.
But on paper, it is, right? If,
Yeah, I guess,
if
yeah.
a company is a person and an AI controls the company,
Yeah.
in theory, a human has to own the equity.
I'm sure Sam Altman's already thought through a lot of this stuff already.
Sam Altman is an AI. I don't think he's.
I'm going to share my top stories. The first one was Reddit says it will start a paywall. We'll start paywalling some of its subreddits. I don't know if you guys saw this, but it looks like they are going to start paywalling some of their subreddits. You guys still use Reddit? Or?
Yeah.
It is like a great resource of past knowledge. And it is like a good way to kind of get like an idea of like social consensus for certain things. Although you have to be very careful with that because Reddit is such a big platform, it's politically gamed all the time. But there's like a lot of local niche communities that you can get a lot of information from. So I think it's still really valuable. But the thing is like Reddit exists despite like all of the bad management that's been going on with it, like in the past several years. So it just has so much momentum from the good days that it's still going relatively strong.
Yeah.
But, they started doing things like they would force you to log into your account in order to view subreddits.
Does Condé Nast still own them? Or did they get sold again? Do you know, Ted?
I don't know.
Yeah, so they already started locking down their information. I think they were just kind of upset that OpenAI just like literally scraped all of their data. And all these other like AI companies are scraping their data all the time, but they made it more difficult to use the platform. So if they start paywalling stuff, whatever.
I love Gray Ruby's thing. He said Stagger Sports will never be paywalled, but it's 2 sats to give you your 2 sats. Stagger Sports is a territory on Stacker Days. Thought that was cool. The other one I wanted to bring up was this one. This one was really big news. Mercor raises $100 million at a $2 billion valuation. This just got announced this week. But yeah, look. So these young guys went and raised $100 million at $2 billion valuation.
Look at those chaps.
And from the app is really interesting because let me see if I can find the link. You think they would? There it goes. The app helps you with getting a job. So they basically have AI. You go here, you click try a practice interview, but you basically apply, you upload your resume. Here, let me show you. You upload your resume, and then from here, you talk to AI, and then it gets you a job.
Well, the talk to AI is the key part, right? So they're on video with the AI explaining themselves.
But yeah, I thought that was really fascinating that apparently they already have revenue, and it's to the right, so it's working. And so I think it just kind of goes back to what we've been saying, like over the course of like the past year on this show is I just think AI is just going to get rid of more contract workers or jobs. It's happening already. And there's just, I think the AI companies that figure that out first are just going to start doing more of these. And now, so long, job recruiters. I don't know. Is that too bearish of a take?
I don't know. I feel like small companies and good companies that know what they're doing actually have competent people involved in the hiring process. And I don't see AI replacing that. Like I wouldn't feel pretty confident working on an engineering team that was hired by AI. I would be very skeptical of that. So maybe if this was like a tool that maybe a CTO would use to hire engineers. I'm talking about engineers because I'm an engineer, but
Right.
so I don't see it like taking that. I don't know. Like on the other hand, like there's a lot of companies have notoriously awful HR departments and hiring departments, and you go, and this is like a meme when you look up, like go to these job sites and you look up like what their requirements are. The requirements are just absolutely stupid. Like some of them don't even make sense. Like they'll want 20 years of AI experience. It's like it hasn't even been out. Like
See, that's
like things that haven't even been out for that long. Like the some of the requirements are just so brain dead, stupid, and it's like a meme. So it's like, well,
if the AI can do it better.
yeah, maybe the AI can do a lot of
And then,
the HR
and I feel
stuff
like with
better.
an app like or a company like this, those guys are so young, Ted. Like they know what the future looks like better than any of us because
Do
we're
they?
old men. Yes, they're trying to get jobs.
Maybe or maybe they're trying to get VC money.
That too. I mean, Dorsey backed them. I'm pretty sure he backed them.
Did you say $300 million raise?
Hang on, let me double
Did I
check.
hear
I'm
that
pretty
right?
sure it was Dorsey. I mean,
Or $300
Let's see if I can
$300 million
find it.
valuation.
where is it at here? Yeah. So
I do think it's
they
a
were
great
part of the
idea.
Peter Thiel Fellowship, and Jack Dorsey.
Teal
and-
Fellows.
yeah, and I think it was.
$100 million.
Yeah, there you go.
How are they going to return that? I mean, look at that. They raised $100 million Series B, valuing at $2 billion. $2 billion. Okay, so there's clearly value there, no doubt about it, right? I mean,
Yeah,
they're
I'm sure
automating
if they have
recruiters.
revenue that's at a certain number, I'm sure they're
They must have revenue for that
Yeah.
kind of valuation.
Yeah, they totally have revenue. And but a lot of this stuff, we were just talking about this earlier, like if it's all in India and some of these other places where, the market's already kind of moving in that direction as it is, as far as jobs that are much lower than an American engineer. Do you take offense to that, Topher? Like, because some of the jobs are shifting there.
I don't take an offense. I don't really take offense to AI taking over any of my work. I'm not threatened. Yeah. So like what the AI would just make the same determination that humans are making in the same position, which is just
I
to
think-
like hire cheaper labor.
I think for this specific company, it seems that you would have a typical recruiter, like you would pay, and they would get 30% of that job that's vacant, or 20%, whatever that number is, and now you don't need to do that. So you're
course.
saving. I mean, you're saving thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars if you're a company who needs to hire some engineers across the pond or even in their own backyard. And I to me, when I see this, it's just like, duh, this was inevitable.
I guess I don't get what the pitch is. Like, how is this AI making things better? Because you can game AI systems.
Exactly.
So, and you can already game the hiring process for like insert industry here.
Oh, so maybe you're saying that somebody will game this?
Yeah, just a new thing to game.
it is just like a new thing to game. So I don't know, like I could see how AI could really revolutionize hiring because it's such a, like the whole HR hiring industry is just terrible.
So you guys just popped an idea in my head. What if it's just AI hiring AI?
Yeah, well, exactly, right?
What if that's really what's going on behind the scenes?
I'm
There's
gonna
a lot of
generate an AI version.
trading. Obviously, this just popped in my head right now, but like when you guys said that, I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that.
I
That's
could see it.
fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a really nice photo shot of that guy.
Yeah, look at
And
that
website. Who
website.
takes really good candid photos like that?
The VC.
Not a lot of men I know.
The AI does.
The AI does though.
It's all AIs all the way down. Maybe the VCs are AIs. This whole thing might be.
Can you imagine interviewing with an AI?
Well, you can. You can literally. You don't need to imagine it anymore, Topher. You can go
Jeez.
and have a practice and go and do
Signing
it.
with Google. That's what I'm about.
But I think you might be right. What if it is AI talking to AI, hiring AI?
I feel like that's what you need to do because a system like this, I feel like a lot of the stuff that the video is for is kind of culture fit. Can you crack a few jokes? Are you on the same page? All those social cues. That's all the stuff that AI is the worst at.
Right.
AI is very good at saying, is this person competent, can say all the words that are relevant to this topic? So that's the perfect use case for an AI from the interviewee's perspective, right? So they definitely want that video version of Topher that is just like Topher, but minus all the humor, minus all the social niceties, and only just pure terminology.
They just want your brain.
They just want like his mouth or something.
They want your soul.
Why wouldn't I just create an AI avatar of myself to interview with the other AI avatar?
And dispatch it to all
It's
the...
like Lawnmower Man. You're just in this world.
My
Could be
AI
cool.
interviews with the Netflix AI. Get a job at Netflix.
Yeah. Anyways,
With an AI manager.
This was like this was the big one that came this week. So I just wanted to share that because I thought it was relevant because it's AI, and then Dorsey backed it. So
Wow.
I mean,
No, it looks like a really
look
cool
at those
company.
guys, young chaps, changing
Yeah.
the world. I love to see it.
They must have like access to a lot of data if they're getting that high of a valuation. So like I'm thinking like how you would train an AI on this. And it's like if you had access to like interviews, like actual interviews,
YouTube.
all interview prep.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like train like a.
Oh,
They
interesting.
probably don't have their own AI. They're probably just using ChatGPT Wrapper or something else. Don't you think?
I'm sure
Fine
it's
tune it a
clever.
little bit.
Sure, it's
Yeah,
clever.
I guess like ChatGPT has just consumed so much of the internet that it just I guess it knows like what the interview process is for insert industry here, and you could sort of like.
So it looks like
mimic
they have 468,000 applicants. India remains its largest talent source. So I mean, it's basically what I was saying. It's moving. The world is evolving. South America are seeing rapid growth too as well.
Oh, interesting. So 2 billion valuation, 27x ARR multiple. So what's that? What's 2 divided by 25?
And they're making a lot of money from each of those applicants. I wonder how they're pricing it, like through the door.
80 million, is that right?
It's crazy. All right, we're gonna jump into the top stackers. Ted, we do this thing every week where we cover the top stackers. Not yet the Cowboy segment. I don't know if you've heard of that one, but these are the stackers this week. Undisciplined, finally dethroning Keyan. Way to go, Undisciplined.
Wow, Keon's gone for a week and he's already dethroned.
Look how far down he went.
It's really going downhill. No, I'm kidding, Keyan. I'm kidding. It's going uphill. Let the stackers take over. Then Gray Ruby, Aardvark, 0x Bitcoiner, Blockchain Boog, Simple Stacker, Nout. Yep. We're going to jump into the most popular segment in Bitcoin, the Cowboy segment. You got your cowboy hat, Ted? Oh, no, you just got a regular stacker.
Just a regular hat.
We got one stacker in hiding. Keyan with a triple shooter. Undisciplined, or triple crown, I'm sorry. 117. Blockchain Boog. Gray Ruby. All the usual suspects. Usual stackers. Jason B. Rothbardian. I always wait till I find somebody that I know. Real Bitcoin Dog.
Aardvark.
Aardvark. Oliver Weiss. 02. 0x Bitcoiner. Webster. Oh, there's Max. Bitcoin
Solomon
News.
Stoshi.
Whoa. Bitcoin News. Oh, Pleb Poet. There's Vlad. Yeah, there you go. That's all of them. And then, yeah, that's the end of the show. Let's jump into the boosts from this past week. Looks like we had some boosts. PS says value for value. LMG. Man, gosh. You know what? PS, you might actually have to give us a rant on this. I want to see a paragraph because we literally talked about value for value, and I know he's a big fan of value for value.
Perfect.
He's one of those people that, and tell me if I get it wrong, but he's one of those people that will only zap what he thinks is value on podcasts, for Bitcoin podcasts. He's even come out and said it multiple times on Noster. I talked to him on Noster. but he's a big fan of Value for Value. So want to see your paragraph on what you thought about that segment.
The rebuttal.
Because he actually lives it. This is who you're talking to. Gray Ruby, Zap. Blockchain Boog, Zap. And yeah, that's all the ones from last week. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the show.
Good show.
What are you guys doing this weekend?
I'm going to be working on just got a server up and running in Singapore, so I think I'll work on that, get it ready for my friend to test out in the Philippines. But he keeps getting sick with things. He went to the doctor in the Philippines in this kind of rural town, and they injected him in the hand and gave him a blood clot. And I was like, dude, maybe you should come back to the U.S.,
Oh, my God.
Yeah, he went in for one thing, got something else.
How does that even happen?
This is my first tester. I hope he makes it. It's like,
yeah.
Jesus, man.
Topher, what are you doing this weekend?
Well, I also launched a server in Romania. So probably be working on that, getting it to do something useful. And I'll be going on a bit of vacation for a little bit.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
For February?
Yeah. Just for
Nice.
a week. I'll be gone.
Cool.
Cool.
Where are you going?
It's a
I am
secret.
going
Oh.
to check out what's going on in Denver for Bitcoin.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Hell yeah.
You did mention that.
March 13th, I think it
That
is.
should be
Boulder
good.
Bitcoin event. You won't
should be
make that
cool.
one, but Denver Bitcoin, they've got their own space now up there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to go check
Yeah,
out their
go
space.
check it out. Tell if
See
you
what
see
Hunter's
if you
up
see
to.
Red, tell him say hi, Hunter. The whole gang. I feel like we know all of them.
Hunter, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I'll be here tomorrow working. Today's gonna be kind of a weird day. I don't know. The weather's throwing me off this week. It's like first it's kind of frozen, then it's kind of cold. Yeah, it's been a weird week of weather here.
They're starting to throw salt all
are
over
they?
the sidewalks and stuff. So I guess it's starting to get pretty
Oh, I can
cold.
see it right down there.
All
It's
right.
a winter wonderland out there in
Well-
Austin, Texas.
Stackers, go out this weekend. Stay warm. I usually say Keyan, and then he says the magical word, but this time I'm going to say Ted and see what he says.
Drink a hot toddy.